What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Final Frontier, the only Star Trek show you'll ever need, and that is Warp Factor Fiction, a chronological analysis of Star Trek on screen, one of our favorite franchises. We're really getting into it season by season, movie by movie. Every month here on Patreon, we are talking about them and going over them in depth. Now, also keep in mind, we have our companion series over on our YouTube channel, Quarter Impulse, where we get into like the real nitty gritty of things, specifically things we want to talk about within the Star Trek universe. I'm your host, Mick Manhattan, joined by my number one for life, the man, the myth, the legend, Casey the Man Plot. What's up, buddy?
Thank you. Hey, buddy, how are you, man? It's good to see you. We're in the same room.
I know,
we're doing
right?
This thing. We're doing like studio stuff. It's pretty cool, man. It feels good.
Well, I thought it'd be nice, especially when we do these, because the intros are great, but talk to each other. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. And it's nice that we have our Archie Bunker chairs. And, you know, we're comfortable just hanging out. I love it. It's wonderful. It's perfect. It's the way it should be.
And guys, we are building out our studio space, so you will get to see it more and more as it goes. But we have some fun Trek stuff in store for you as we go along.
That we do.
But yeah, let's get into it, bud. So we want to talk about season 2 of Enterprise. That's where we're at.
Yes, we are. And it's been a long road getting from there to here. But I'll tell you what. This second season is pretty solid, buddy.
It's probably
we're going to discuss the first 13 episodes out of 26 in this episode.
Yeah.
And then make sure to tune in next week for the wrap-up of season 2.
Exactly. Every month we do 2 episodes a month, and it covers the full season. But we are in season 2 of Enterprise, and it kicks off. So we go into, and we're not going to go season by season, but we want to talk about the episodes at first. So the first 13 episodes in this that we want to talk about here, kind of getting into depth a little bit more about it, is we get back to Shockwave Part 2.
Yep, we finally get to wrap that up because Star Trek is known for its two-parters.
Yeah.
We have to have as many two-parters as possible, especially cliffhanger season finales. They have to happen.
And that was a huge one because we had Archer stuck in the past. Oh, no, I'm sorry. All the way in the future.
Yep, with Daniels.
Daniels. In the Temporal War, things have gone haywire. They don't know what's happening.
They're trying to figure out who has destroyed this settlement that Enterprise is being blamed for.
Yeah.
And so that's fun. 3,600 people that you watch basically in part 1 of this when we finish season 1, that episode, Shockwave Part 1. That's where you really amazingly get this despondent captain. It's funny how he's just got no hope. The guy who's been fighting and pushing for the best of everyone is like, well, it doesn't matter. We killed 3,600 people. We suck.
I know, but that's what drove me nuts about the last season when we were talking about that a little bit and getting back into this. I love the tidbits that they had in this first episode. And the reason I want to get more in depth about this particular episode is because it is a continuation off the last, and it kind of sets up a little bit of like where we're going to go into the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Big
you know.
time.
You get the hint on the Federation.
Yep.
Because he sees the book in the future, and he's like, "What's this?" He's like, "You're not supposed to know about that."
Yeah.
Which begs the question, with all of this time travel and the Temporal War and things like that, is that the proponent to why the Federation comes together, or was it always meant to come together, and this is just what's happening now?
Right. I think it's one of those, the time travel is an afterthought. It's something, it's not chicken or the egg here. I think it's pretty clear that there was a line in the way things happened, and then Daniels is mucking it up, and these temporal wars are all screwing with the timelines, because I can see that. And there's enough lore out there in Star Trek that definitely corroborates that.
No, lore comes later.
Yeah, he does. With Data. Hey-o.
I did it.
You got jokes, you zoom type fella.
I had to try.
You nailed it. Bravo. But this specific episode has one of my favorite parts of T'Pol's overall character arc.
Okay.
I love the fact that she stands up for the crew
to
her own Vulcan emissaries, and she's having these words with them like, hey, it took us time to learn too. Nobody got in the way of us learning. We just were allowed to learn. So who are we to do that to them? Are we not supposed to learn from our mistakes and be better? And it's beautiful the way that she stands up for him like that. It's just fantastic. So and we start to see now her not only respect but almost admiration now for Archer. So season one, he gets a respect. They all earn that with each other.
Yeah, I see. That is a big thing. Yeah.
And they figure that out, so that way they become the solidified crew that we're going to want to follow and love. In this episode, we see T'Pol kind of finish her journey. Essentially, you know, she's now walking down the new path. Now she's officially embraced that she is the first officer of Enterprise. She's not via the Vulcan Academy, you know, the Science Institute. So,
I see that point, and I like that a lot because her character, that big of a jump to make that distinction, you do see the switch, and I like how they film it because they never say it, but it's so prevalent in this next episode, which we're getting into, Carbon Creek. How she's now sitting at dinner with them. She's telling the story where it was always kind of like, why do we have to have dinner? Like, you know,
right? Yep.
Because she considered herself separate, but at the end of Shockwave, because the fact that she's the one that primarily had to deal while Archer's gone in the future stuck.
Yep.
And then when he gets back, it's like, what are we going to do? But she's the seller. She's the Vulcan that has to step up.
Exactly.
And when she does, I like when that hit, like I was like, this is the stride for me. I think that when they finally go to the Vulcans, say, back the hell off, like, you know, let's let us do it.
Yep.
That was the big seller for me for this show, because I really liked the first season. I loved the whole aspect of coming in, but this second season, that was like that. It's just that moment, you know, you see in movies and TV where you're like, there's the hook, that's the thing.
Everything clicks, everything starts to fit together, and now that last piece is there, and it's like, now I'm excited to follow this crew.
Yeah.
Now I want to see T'Pol be the first officer.
100%.
Because now she's not just going to be the science officer who works as the first officer. You know, now she full on has taken that responsibility, which she does a few times in season one. You see her get there. That's definitely a good progression they take with her through. But to see her here where she really stands up, now she's in defense of them. Like, that's a huge thing, because now she's
for Vulcan,
the crew. Like, this is now her crew. It's wonderful.
But see, that's the thing I liked about it. It didn't seem like she was in it with the crew yet. She was just completely sold on Archer.
I mean, that she is. That's completely 100%. And, well, she respects Hoshi. They scream it enough on the bridge, you know. They yell at each other. I just love... Look, Jolene Blaylock absolutely crushes being serious as an officer when she gives an order. Like, it's awesome. She does that very well. She's like, she looks at you like, you heard what I said. Like, you better do what I said. It's
but
like,
I always loved her delivery on things like that, especially on this show compared to like a Spock or where we're elsewhere with it. I always loved her aspect to it because she is... You see the character arc turn, whereas like Spock in the original series, I don't think there was a set
that moment, the click moment. Yeah.
Well, when we get there, we'll find the click. I don't know. I think we will find it, but I think that for me, it was the Vulcans weren't completely fleshed out, just like the Klingons weren't fleshed out. So
I mean, that's fair, and also you have a different thing with Spock because he's half human.
Yeah.
So you're following someone who's kind of within the two worlds, whereas Jolene Blaylock's T'Pol is 100% a Vulcan. She is a member of the Science Academy. She was planning on being an ambassador at one point. You know, she's a bigwig. She's a big deal. She's one of those star up and comers, and she crushes it. And then all of a sudden to turn this way, to give them that, and it's really just based out of respect. It's 100% respect based.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see that. Well, because, I mean, Archer has her back.
He proves that with coming in.
Yep, he constantly proves that. So it's that sort of beautiful growth with them is wonderful, and I'm glad we get to see more of that. Yeah. And later coming up on one of my all-time favorite episodes, we're going to be able to discuss that more in depth. So now we get to Carbon Creek.
So, we go into Carbon Creek. So they're back. Now we still have our mission. We're going into Carbon Creek, and this is one where it really kind of sets it apart from all the others in this season, especially because this is one that takes place back in time. It rewrites history a little bit, saying that the first contact wasn't First Contact Day with Zefram Cochrane.
Right.
There were actually hidden Vulcans that had crash landed on Earth, and one of them was T'Pol's grandmother.
Yep.
And this takes place in the 50s. It's either the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, I think it's the 50s. I think it's 1955, I believe.
Yeah, because Carbon. So because and I like how they started the story where they're out to dinner and they're like, "Well, tell us a story."
1957. Sorry,
1950,
1957.
and that fits. Yeah, that's right around.
Sorry, I had still have the other time travel one on the brain. Back to the Future with 55.
So for me, when in that episode when they finally ask, like, tell us a story, and they do, and you get really into it, it showed a level of what Vulcans can be, and it actually, I think, makes Vulcans in the future who do get emotional, like the Spocks or things like that.
Yep.
I think it does add that element of like, oh, okay, so they control them, but they have them,
right?
Because we see T'Pol more and more, and now as we go on and we find out why more and more, with the mind meld and and we'll get to the sickness once we get there. But in this one, so going back to what I was saying before we were so rudely interrupted by the Klingons coming in trying to take over.
Well, that's what happens. You got to be careful. Cloak ships, man, they sneak right up on you.
Actually, I know we're talking, but one thing I do want to ask: could you please, once we're setting up the studio, I know it's hanging on your wall, but can you hang it here? You know what I'm going to ask.
What, the Vorcha? The battle cruiser?
No, the Quapla.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I love that picture.
Yeah.
So quick side note before we get back into Carbon Creek. It is Star Trek related, so it works. When I lived with Casey, that hung up on the wall for so long. It's Gowron was saying Quapla. But it's done in
the Hope style poster of Obama. What was that, 2012 or 2014?
I think it was 2008.
Wow.
I think that was early on.
Good Lord.
If Hope was 2012, then that's when it was.
Yeah.
Change was 2008.
Was the
I think.
original. Yeah.
Okay.
Change to start. Yeah.
So, but as we go on, now we're talking about that. This always hung there, and I don't know why I fell in love with it, but I did.
It's amazing.
And if we're going to do Star Trek and have the studio set up, I really would love to look at that as we go on.
And I do have to always give a shout out. That was from dorktrek.com. That was was the group that did that. They got me that. Cool. They were they had their own podcast where they created fan fiction stories.
I love that.
And I can't remember what the name of the vessel was, but it was really cool. It was fun. They had like a whole crew and stuff that would do their thing. It was a fun podcast way back when.
I want to reach out to them. See if
that
they're
was
still
in
doing
2012. Yeah, at Baltimore Comic Con.
They're still out. They're still around. So,
perfect.
Love it.
Should hit them up.
I will. That's going to be great. Maybe get them on and talk about it. So, but anyway, we're going
Carbon Creek.
Carbon Creek, which is a very good episode. I did like this episode a lot. When it started, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, I was like, but I really liked how they set it up because, and like I was saying, like, I think this really, T'Pol really fixes her character as a Vulcan. I think really fixes a lot of inconsistencies we've seen within Vulcans down the line, like where we see some that have, and maybe not just T'Pol, but the Vulcans within Enterprise, this series.
Oh, like the ones that you see who are really hardcore, the ones who are so adamant about things are done by logic and they're so strict about it. Like there's two captains, actually, the two vessel captains that we follow later on in later episodes. And both of them are very like, nope, this is the way it is. They're straight down the line, no questions, no BS. And then you get the ambassador who yells.
Yeah, he gets mad.
Hanging out with humans. It's
like,
what? You get to see that.
I love that aspect of it. So when Carbon Creek finally comes up, and we're seeing T'Pol's grandmother's backstory, we're seeing an actual first contact with humans, and how it ends up. One thing that I really took away from this is we had talked about it off the air, but when she at the end, they're like, "Is this true?" And she's like, "I don't know," and like she just gives that little, like sort of like, I don't know,
and Trip's face, like you a Vulcan messed with us, like how did you do that? And even Archer just is almost proud.
I know,
he's
right?
Almost proud that she messed with him. He's like, yes.
But I think that opened up. I think this episode opened up a lot of doors to see the relationship between Trip and T'Pol, because to me that almost becomes taking out the romantic aspects that we see later, and I don't want to get into that until we get there, but. Taking out those romantic aspects, there is a very serious, from the beginning in the first season, connection between these two. Very Sam and Diane-ish.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. I'd agree
done
with that,
in a wonderful way, dramatically.
Yep.
Which I honestly, you don't really see that in dramas.
No, you don't. Not the will they, won't they in the drama, at least not done this well.
Yeah.
Which they get to. So, but we're not there.
Yeah.
This is Carbon Creek.
But
we're
this
talking
is
about
one of those
Mestral,
things
Tamir, and T'Pol.
where she was fine getting under his skin and just being, well, maybe not she was fine with it, but she would, and it would, whatever.
Yeah, she was willing to mess with him. Yeah, she was willing to actually mess with him a little bit, even though if like, and it's fun. It's that game of a Vulcan playing with you on 3 different levels, because she's told you a story. You know that Vulcans don't lie, and she just said that she might have just told the story, so you don't know.
No.
And it's fun how she kind of does that to mess with everyone. But if you logic it out, you go, oh, well, that's real. And then she shows the purse at the end, her grandma's purse in the end of that episode, which is just perfect.
And solidifies everything. Yeah. And it also leaves it open just to talk about this. And I want to get into this topic once we go through the episodes. But coming back to it, because it actually shows up quite a bit in different ways. And this is the prime directive almost, where the one Vulcan stays. He wants to live his life out there. He wants to be with the woman, and they kind of go through that route. So,
Mestral. Yep.
Yeah, that's a big deal. But before we get there, and what is your take on this episode?
Oh, so this episode's a lot of fun for me because absolutely that could be true. That a Vulcan vessel would crash randomly and have to sneak their way out. Because how many times do we see the Enterprise do it? Any version of the Enterprise. You know, don't mess with the population. Try to stay quiet and subtle and just live out your life and figure out a way out. Orville brings it up. The freaking Orville has an incredible...
That is an incredible,
Oh, it was sad. It was brutal. It was a better version of this, and this, I think, is one of the best go back in times and change our history episodes that's ever been done.
But I think to touch down on the Orville, and it really, like you said, drives us home, is in that episode. And, you know, a quick surprise for everybody, we were going to add the Orville down the line at the end of this because it is very much a Star Trek show.
Yeah, it's next gen.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got Brandon Braga as one of the writers and producers. I mean,
so many. Robert Duncan Neal.
Okuda, the Okuda's to help with the design of everything. It's like, yes.
But it's okay to talk about because John Billingsley was also on the Orville.
Yes, he was. Yep, absolutely. It fits.
So Phlox was there. It's all good.
We had Phlox and the EMH. We're together.
Yeah, Robert Picardo was there. Yeah. They had a lot of people pop up. Marina Sirtis, all nine. So now with this though, and driving that point home is what I really like that the Orville did is they showed both sides.
Yes.
And seeing that, like, I have a wife, I have kids. You can't. You're taking everything away from me. And then when they go back and they tell him, he's like, "You did the right thing."
It's so hard for you. Like, how could you do that? Like, he couldn't even fathom it because it was a mere matter of moments for him. Versus this entire life he'd let out. So that's kind of the joy in this episode of Carbon Creek is, for me, I love watching Vulcans be uncomfortable around humans. It's probably one of my favorite things that's ever put on screen. And we get Jolene Blaylock playing her own grandmother, Tamir. And she does such a great job.
She did do a really good one.
Crushes it. But the Mestral character, I think, is wonderful because it shows that openness of Vulcans even at this time. You know, still before official first contact, still being willing to being fascinated by us. There's something about us that they go, what is it about you? Like, I love that. I love that that's always been part of the lore, is there's an affinity between our peoples, and we don't know why. We're just like, you annoy the hell out of us, but we like to fight you a lot, but we also kind of love you, so you're like our brothers and sisters. Like, you got to deal with it, you know?
And it's like that whole dynamic with the Vulcans and the fact that they were the first ones both times, first contacts. But and I like that aspect to it. But this episode was very good. This is very well done. I really liked how they did it, and it all starts from them asking the question, "What were you doing in Carbon Creek, Pennsylvania?" And she goes, and the fact that she twisted, she goes, "I wanted to go see the real first contact point." And their minds exploding.
Oh, God. Watching them both be like, what? She's like, no. First contact for you was first contact day. First contact for us was not first contact day.
I loved it.
We learned about you, a decade or, a century before they show back up? More than that. 3 centuries beforehand?
And it makes...
1957 and first contact is in, 2156 or something? No.
2151.
2063, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is 2063.
Yeah, 2063's first cut. Yeah, we're 40 years away. We can do this. It just
gotta make it.
We both got to hit 80 and we can see it.
Oh, my God. We'll both be in Bozeman, Montana. Yeah. Just be like, where are they?
Just waiting.
World War III sucked.
The eugenics war was less bad, but still, you know.
I mean, we were slaves for a while, but whatever.
It's cool. We got through it. So, speaking of getting through it, we will move past episode 2. I think one of the better episodes.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to spend a little more time on this one, because there's a lot of philosophy talk to that.
There is, yeah,
and touching down on. But we get to another one which connects with the First Contact, Minefield, which, guys, we're going to kind of motor through these a little bit because we want to get into the points we want to talk about, but where they first run into the Romulans.
Yep.
And we don't see them.
Nope.
We just see the ships, and we know the minefield is there, and it really damages the ship.
And one of the crew members. I mean, we get Malcolm trapped by a mine on the edge of the ship, and we get to see. Yeah. This is a fun one because we get really Dominic Keating gets to shine in this one.
Yeah.
He absolutely is fantastic. Getting Malcolm, a Malcolm-centric episode is always fun because he's a great actor, and he's kind of a dick. Yeah. So it's funny. Like, it's always funny because he's kind of a jerk. Like, I understand where he's coming from as a jerk. He's very much so the Worf. Like, he kind of says the thing, and everyone looks at him like, well, what?
He's like a more, not counting season 3 of Picard, but he's like a more...
directed? Focused?
Not focused, I would say a more... What is it called when you're good at your job? Everybody gets so mad when I talk about Worf at his job. I like Worf as a character. He's not a great Klingon.
He's fine.
He's not a great officer.
I mean, true. He had some things. He may
definitely, out of all 3 of those, not a great security.
He's not a great tactical officer. He's definitely not the best father. So, you know, look.
Oh my God!
Worf
right?
was trying his best. All right.
Worf is a guy who I absolutely adore and love his character and never want to see him anywhere else.
Yep.
But it took him, 30 years to actually become competent?
All
competent.
Right.
That's the word I was looking for. Competent.
Yes. Hey, it's all right. We've got years before that happens.
All right. So after Minefields, the ship is damaged, almost beyond repair. They're thinking about going home. Dead Stop is the next episode.
Who do we get to see but the Tellarites?
Yeah,
come through. Time, yep. Finally, we see some Tellarites coming through on a space freighter, being like, "Nah, man, go hang out here. This space station is great."
And the Tellarites in this are so much different from what they are in the future.
Yeah, well, because they're like the Xindi. You have so many different races on one planet, you know. So they're all Tellarites because of their planet, but they're different. Everyone's different.
But we only really get one.
Oh yeah, we've only ever
Enterprise.
Really through Enterprise we see one, and then eventually we see one long hair at the end. But that's it. That's
So it's funny how we see that, but Dead Stop. That's really all we see, and then we get this is one where they find a random AI ship a station that can repair their ship. So they do that, but they have to give some things in return to do it, a payment. But secretly they're taking members of your crew and using their life force to run their ship.
How exciting is that? They just steal a battery while you're there. No big deal. Hey, thanks for your 200 barrels of plasma. We're stealing that guy.
Yeah, right. And then of course they steal probably one of the most noticeable human beings that you could have stolen on that ship. Travis Mayweather, the pilot.
The pilot extraordinaire who, you need. Like, the Enterprise ain't going very far without him. He's phenomenal. And they're definitely going to fight for him to get him back. So
this dream that they all had about going to this place turned quickly into a rescue mission. Then we get back to
after I do have to give some grief on this one because there are air vents everywhere.
Yeah, there really are.
And the magical technology that they have in this space station, they have air vents you can just crawl through. So I'm glad we got our Die Hard moment there. Also, really love the Hoshi Mayweather story starting to blossom here a lot more than it had previously. We start seeing them solidifying. This is a good episode of them coming together, figuring each other out. And because Hoshi knows who Travis Mayweather is, she's the one who figures out that's not Travis Mayweather.
Yeah.
So, really well done.
And see, the thing that really bugged me about this was about that relationship is that they do build that up in this season. and then it never gets touched down on.
Yeah, man, so we'll get to that as we continue on, because this season is probably my favorite season of the entire series.
I agree,
and I think they do everything really well, and they grow a fantastic crew here. Which this season is why I don't like the ending that they gave, and we'll get there. But continuing on.
Actually, I have a theory. Once we get through, once we get to this next episode where we talk about the second half of this, I have a theory that ties into Nemesis, and we'll get into that and talk about it a little bit.
Okay, nice.
Okay, so I'm going to motor through and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the certain episodes we want to highlight and other things, because we're getting into it a little different. You guys don't want to hear us talk about episode by episode, so let's motor through real quick. Okay, we have a night in sick bay, which we are definitely coming back to talk about, and that is where Captain Archer's dog Porthos gets a virus while he's on a planet, and it's a long night for Archer. So we're gonna get back to that though, because that's a one we want to get to in depth. Marauders. This is where Enterprise finds a colony that has deuterium, and it's a trading post. And when they get there, they realize the Klingons have a stronghold on the people who run it, and now they're going to help them fight back. So,
we get a full-on Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, Heart of Gold episode, whatever else you want to slap on there. There's one of them. So
funny. And I like, and there's a lot of themes in that I really like, and that Archer shows. Then we have the 7th, which is a good one. T'Pol and Captain Archer go on a mission to capture a Vulcan fugitive, played by Bruce Davidson.
Cock of the walk, baby.
I love Bruce Davidson.
He's awesome, man. He's one of the best senators to ever turn into a puddle ever.
That's true. Yeah, he was. Yeah. So he works with another. He works with another Star Trek one. 2 captains.
Yep.
So they have to go find this fugitive that T'Pol lost years and years ago, but now they have a chance to catch him again. It's a good episode. The Communicator, where Prime Directive goes right out. Well, we don't have Prime Directive yet, but if we did,
this is why. This is this is the episode as to why everything becomes way more important and way more like you better you check all your stuff and make sure you're good to go. Like, I love the fact that Malcolm Reed is the one who screws the pooch on this. Yes. Captain always so worried and up everyone's butts about being perfect and paying attention to rules and regs, and then he leaves his phone. Basically.
Yeah, he left the Communicator right there. In fact, the name of the episode is The Communicator, and then they have to go back to get it, but they find out that the people that inhabit that planet found it already, know they're there, think they're the enemy, and it causes a whole lot of chaos.
And they are some weird Nazi commie bad guys, whatever they're supposed to be.
They really are. Singularity. They must save the ship. T'Pol must save the ship from the crew. Becomes obsessed with trivialities. So I want to go in depth on this one as we come back, but I really like this one where everyone gets really obsessed with the thing that they have to work on at that moment.
Yep.
And T'Pol having to take the helm and try and like where she starts at to where she gets. I love it. So we'll come back.
Fantastic. Good old wacky space radiation.
Yeah, Vanishing Point, which is a Hoshi-centric episode.
Yes, loved it.
And it also shows a little more of the teleportation and how the transporters.
Well, it shows you why Bones is right. And
there's a lot of reasons why. Yeah, and especially we're thinking about like Picard season 3 and like jumping ahead, but and we're going to get into that in this week's Quarter Impulse. But transporters are a very vulnerable thing.
Yeah, and you've got to be careful. There's a lot of things that can happen, but you can also, save your life by just chilling in a transport buffer forever.
That's true.
So it's a weird give and take there.
Yeah, which we get to in season 4, so we'll get there.
Oh, yeah. And then we get into episode 11, Precious Cargo.
Yeah.
Where Trip is trapped with a young woman, Padma Lakshmi, who plays a princess, basically.
Yeah, she's like a princess, and she and Trip are...
It was a Spaceballs episode, I felt. Very like that relationship.
This was a Trip episode through and through.
Yeah, 100%.
Before Trip really gets serious.
Yep.
And it just works for him. There's not much I have to say on this episode. Nah. It was a fun episode.
It was a very fun episode. It was a good adventure.
Yeah.
It was a good romp.
Yeah.
It was almost Jewel of the Nile. That might be a better actual kind
not as good, but very close in tone for sure.
But yeah. Catwalk, episode 12.
This was a good one, and I want to get more in depth on this one as we go. So we know what we're going to highlight, but there's a bad storm coming, so the entire crew and some visitors at the moment have to live out about a week in the catwalks of the nacelle. of the nacelles, so that way they're kind of stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
And their ship soon gets commandeered.
Yep,
So.
because there's always someone else waiting to come grab your stuff.
That's true.
Lock
and
your doors, people.
Final episode of the
13,
season.
Dawn. Which
I'm so glad this is the episode that we are finishing on in this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's Darmok.
100%. It's just another version of Darmok, and they have to work together while also. So basically, Trip has to land, and then he and this other alien species, or the two of them are individuals trapped, trying to communicate with each other, stealing the gun, pointing it back and forth at each other, like making the other one do the work.
So it's inferior Darmok.
It is inferior Darmok, but it does a great job of making the stakes. These are always one of the things I love is when they give the alien planet an alien character.
Yeah.
And the alien characteristic, sorry. The alien characteristic in this scenario is that the sun, there's two suns, and it's like 300 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
When the sun's up at its maximum zenith, it's like, what?
So they get there at night where it's much cooler. They can live. It's still hot, but they can live through it.
Yeah.
And then it leads off into dawn, where the sun starts coming up, and they're desperately trying to get out.
Yep.
And get themselves out of there. So it's interesting to say the least.
Yeah, it's very well done. Once again, it's fun, cheesy Darmok.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you want in Star Trek episode. You expect to have at least one of these a season where you're going to have someone you don't know. You're going to wind up on a planet with them, and you're either going to have to work with them, or they're working against you, or you fight and then slowly gain each other's respect over time. There's always something here. These are the most consistent Star Trek episodes ever.
100%.
Are these.
Well, I feel like they revisited so many of the Star Trek formula that we know in this episode.
Which makes it great. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Which
100%.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so like we talked about Carbon Copy, we talked about Shockwave Part 2 when we got back in. Let's go through. First off, what's one question I have for you that we can both kind of go through? What do you think about the themes of the first half of this episode as we're coming back in? They're back out. They're back exploring.
Well, the themes are everything they need to be. I think this is exactly why I love this season so much. The themes are Federation. You're seeing the Federation form its baser rules with the tactical alert, with all these other little tidbits, the Prime Directive, the leaving your communicator down, with all of those bits and pieces. We're learning and seeing more and more how the Federation will be formed that we know in the future. So it's very exciting to watch that and see how that plays out. Plus, we get to see the more integration and people working together.
Yeah.
The willingness of other species to work together. Because, someone like Archer has to go out and prove himself. So he does that with the Andorians. So we have friends there. He does that with T'Pol. Yep. So we have friends there now, and other Vulcan captains that we've gone through.
And that's what I kind of like about this season with Archer is because remember when we talked about the first season, it was kind of visiting him with, he seems like he doesn't know how to captain. He doesn't know how to be the leader.
Right.
And I think now we're seeing him finally, becoming the leader he knows he needs to be, that the future is telling him he is.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to live up to that, and he's trying to do it the best way he is by making the right choices.
Yep, we see that a lot more in this season.
Yeah,
this season we see him really hammer down and hone in on what is the right choice every time. And he's still listening to his crew, but now he's actually hearing them. In the first season, you notice he does this a lot. He'll go on to interact with everyone, and he'll have his dinners and lunches and all that, and you really get to know his officers and listen to them. But he's still trying to make the decision he thinks should be the way, not necessarily the right way. And that's Archer's growth in this season that I love. So
this is the best version of Archer.
Agreed.
Oh, this 1000%.
Season.
I definitely feel differently about that going on. But so we go through Minefield, like we talked about a bit in Minefield. It's a good episode. Through it, like it's cool. You get to kind of hint on the Romulans. You never see them again.
Well, and you shouldn't. They're supposed to be the boogeymen. I mean, that's the beauty of the Romulans is they remain the boogeyman versus the Klingons that are just terrifying if you run into them. I mean, if you just you got no shot. The Romulans, you don't know. They could be anywhere at any time.
One thing I do like that they do, especially with Marauders, as we got to that episode, and you see the Klingons return, every time we meet the Klingons, we are pissing them off more and more.
Every time,
specifically to the point where Archer is the one who's known, and that's who pisses us off.
And we know there's a Klingon war. So what better way to watch this lead up but the same guy who's been part of the Federation, who's just been needling them time after time after time after time.
And getting the best of them every time.
And these are big houses. This is House Duras. He does this against some pretty big houses, man. He's not messing with it. There's no lightweights. He's against the entire council, bro.
And the council hates him for it.
But the chancellor's always like, but the right thing, the honorable right thing is this. And that's kind of where we almost see Archer starting to mirror that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Archer, with how he is every time he meets or sees, he gets frustrated with a lot of species that we find.
Because Andorians, everybody,
Vulcans
especially. God, he hates.
He's always yelling. There's never a point where he's not yelling at a Vulcan.
Oh God,
T'Pol excluded, but he can't stand them. So like Minefield and what happened there, and seeing the damage to ship and Dead Stop where it gets fixed, that really complements each other well. But when we get to A Night in Sick Bay, which is such a great episode,
it's amazing.
And what was it, the Cretacins
the
Cretassins?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna have to do that a lot for this series, by the way. I'm gonna need to do it quite a bit.
This is my favorite.
The Klings. Klingons.
The Klingons.
Yeah, this is a.
I love this episode. We get to see Archer be terrible at being not normally a human. Basically, he has to learn to unlearn everything he's done because the Cretassins are pissed at him. They're just eating in front of him, and apparently that was enough to offend them. And this is one of those volatile nations where if you offend, that's it, you're out.
Yeah.
You have to go back and do like 7 hours. And it really shows the hubris of humans.
Yeah.
The Vulcans talk about it all the time, and we see it directly affect Porthos in this episode.
Yep.
Our beloved
another species.
Species.
Yeah. And like that's how Phlox kind of takes that stance. Like, he didn't know any better. You're right.
Right.
But you knew better. And he doesn't say that outright. So like when you're watching this episode, but he is alluding to you took him down there.
Right. What do you expect?
Even if you told them that he's coming, they peed on his tree. That's what offended them.
Right. And it makes sense. Yeah. Just use your brain. Figure that out. So we get Phlox at night.
Yeah.
Who is amazing. We also get to see him be a beast mode doctor, caring for the captain's dog like he is an absolute loved one.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's his patient. And he takes that as serious as if it were you or I or anyone else.
It's only one time he doesn't take it seriously, and he still is taking it seriously. And I can't wait to get to that episode.
Yep, very true. So we get that. We get some weird porny dreams because we get Archer thinking about it to Paul the whole time, and kind of working through those feelings. And I'm glad they did that because what a good way to end it.
I know.
What a good way to go.
Thank God.
My responsibility is to you as my crewman. My responsibility is to you as my friend, and then as my second officer, first officer, whatever. So there's that relationship that immediately has to go. If you have any sexual tension, you have to get it out now. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
He kills it. He turns it off and goes, "You're right. That's not the way I can do this. That's not how this is going to work." And it's wonderful to see. It's just a really cool, grown-up way to handle it.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. So it's such a great episode of taking care of him and all the things that Archer, because he can't sleep, and it's so much tension all around. And the sexual tension plays a big part into it. But, of course, his frustrations in dealing with so many different species and going through all of this is really shown here. And the fact that he cares so deeply for Porthos that he is out.
Oh, he's messed up, man. He can't be the captain he needs to be.
Yeah.
He's emotionally compromised. We see him emotionally compromised and then sleep deprived, which is fun that they show that too. They show everything. There's a reason he's a grumpy bastard right now,
Oh, yeah.
When he and Paul are just doing that classic running on the treadmill thing. It's one of my favorite bits that's ever done is when people are running on the treadmill and just slowly increasing to see who can keep up and who's better.
Yeah.
And to Paul, who's a Vulcan, who's obviously stronger and has a different metaphysical makeup than we do, so she is able to go faster for longer than we are as humans. It's funny to watch. He's trying to keep up, if not push her further.
And he's he's not much older, but comparatively to species, he is older than her. She's still young.
She's a young Vulcan. She's 75?
I think she said 66 at this point.
Oh, okay.
when she finally tells Trip her age. She was like 66. And I remember laughing because I think he even says something like, "You look good for a 66-year-old."
Yeah, right.
But yeah, to understand that element of like, it's just different. They're just different the way they're built.
Absolutely. So then there's also another character. Did you have anything else you want to say about Night in Sickbay?
No, I'm good.
So Marauders, I think we covered. It's pretty simple and basic.
It's such a simple.
The 7th is a fun episode because we get to see T'Pol finishing up her time in the Security Council when she was part of that. So that was neat. And we get Travis on an away mission.
Yeah.
Which I like when Travis is on away missions. I always feel like Travis is underutilized heavily in this show for A, how good an actor Anthony Montgomery is, and B, for how really fun that character is. Like, Mayweather's happy to be doing what he's doing. He's excited to do what he does.
Yeah.
Most everyone else is stressed, worried, everything's problematic. Mayweather is one of the few people who's like, hell yeah, let's do this. Like, it's great.
But it bugs me because they really strive after a while as the seasons go. This is where he shines the most.
Yeah, agreed.
And then they just underutilize him for the rest of the time, and it really bugged me because like he was a big player on this.
Yeah, he was. That's why in the next episode we get Horizon. We get to talk about that, which is a wonderful episode about his family.
Yeah.
Then we have, let's see, the Communicator. We discussed that one.
Yeah, that was pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. They left the Communicator.
So the one I really want to bring up here, because I know you have one you want to talk about as well, is Vanishing Point.
Well, Singularity is right before it, and that was the one I want to talk about. So you want to do that first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Singularity is the one where the ship gets they're moving too close to that black hole for a few days, and it's affecting all of them, and it's just T'Pol and Phlox that are not affected.
Yep.
And so they go into it, and everyone is really obsessed. Like Trip, before they went in, the captain Archer was like, "Trip, can you look at seeing about fixing this chair for me? I hate sitting in it. That's why I never do." So Trip is now obsessed over. He's like, should I add a cup holder? Should I do this?
Ridiculous. I love
and like he's fighting with Reed, who's now like, and this is where you get the Reed alert. Go to red alert, Reed alert. So he's making that the alert sound that's not Star Trek yet. No, it's just his.
Oh, but God, I love that.
It was a cool layer to see that Reed was the one that came up with that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think everybody who's on the first ship has to figure those things out.
Yeah.
That's part of what you're doing out there. Is the adaptability of humans, man. We'll find a way. Oh. But yeah, Singularity, when Phlox finally is affected in Singularity, it's hilarious. Remember?
That's true.
Of Hoshi's headache? And he finally is like, what could it be? It could be anything.
That's right, he was affected, but it was... No, it was Hoshi's, or was it... I thought Travis was... No, he was going to perform the surgery on Travis.
Yeah, it was Travis who had the headache. Travis comes in for a headache, and he's like, well, we'll have to see what exactly the problem could be.
There's a Hoshi headache one. There's a Hoshi headache one, but it's a little bit different. But yeah, it's the... Oh, my God, when he has him strapped down, and he's about to open him up, and like she's like, we got to stop this.
What are you doing, doctor?
Oh, my God, it's so funny. But I thought this was a really good episode to see T'Pol kind of deal with the obsessive nature of everyone.
Yeah.
Now they're not sleeping. Now they're just obsessed with getting things done.
Yep.
Hoshi's going crazy trying to figure out this language.
The kitchen, man. The kitchen. Remember, she's trying to make her grandma's famous soup,
and nobody likes it.
One comment is made. He's like, "Oh, it's good. It's a little salty." She goes, "A little salty," and loses her mind over a little salty. It's like, if there's miso in it, of course it's going to be salty.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, lady? Like,
oh my God.
Her mind.
It's so funny. This is a very fun episode. I really liked it.
I'm glad you brought this episode up, because this is where we get not a bird's eye view, a POV view of T'Pol and how she actually thinks about the crew. The way she interacts with them all, we get to kind of see how she actually feels about them all.
Yeah.
And how she handles all of them.
Yeah, because she knows how to handle all of them.
Exactly. How she knows how to handle them, but also it's a lot. Seeing what it takes out on a Vulcan is impressive. Like, being around that much emotion has got to be hard. And I can see that at the end of the episode. So, once again, sorry if this is becoming a Jolene Blaylock love letter, but she's been amazing. T'Pol crushes it in this whole season, man.
It actually is funny. Let's talk about Vanishing Point, and then we'll get to this point where we talk about some of our favorite characters. Yeah. So Vanishing Point, Hoshi goes through the transporter.
Man. Transporter accidents are not cool.
No.
Like, they are the worst type of accidents to have, and especially if you're going to be disappearing in front of your own eyes. Oh
my God.
No, thank you. TNG had the multi-phased episode, and a Scotty episode. There's been so many transporter things that have happened.
There's some good ones.
That this is the first one. It's fun that this is the first documented major issue of transporting a human.
Yep.
It's wild. Like, we're seeing all of this in Enterprise.
And it's funny that it still gets retconned in the 4th season of this show.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's not actually. The other one wasn't documented because they just said he died, but they didn't think he did. Yeah. And that could have saved Hoshi.
Could have done it.
If they had just said something, it could have saved Hoshi, but whatever.
So Hoshi's great because we get to see Linda Park really, really shine in this one.
Yeah.
Because she does all the things that I think I would do. And I think that's why I love this episode so much, is I completely go through her mindset. And then she's smarter by doing the tapping. Because I would have kept running through walls. I probably would have just jerked around and then died somewhere. Just
it was smart
entirely. But she figured it out. She was really smart.
But it plays to her strengths of being a linguist. Communicate in some way. Yep. And so let me use Morse code.
Yep, exactly.
Somebody's going to know what it is, of course, because it was Archer, wasn't it?
It was Archer. Yeah,
Archer's one figured it out.
The Boy Scout. Yeah, of course. You go to the Boy Scout. You got to go to the Boy Scout.
Like, if I saw a light blinking, I'd be like, that light bulb needs to get changed.
Yeah, I would have totally just unscrewed it and been like, all right.
Morse code for me would be the worst thing on the planet, because somebody would be doing it, trying to communicate something. I'd be like, I literally just see the light going on and off. I don't know.
No idea what this is. Yeah.
And I would get bored halfway through and walk away. Like the end of Parasite, when the light keeps blinking and you can tell he's saying it to.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, I'll pick up. So that way.
You're good.
Like the end of Parasite, when light keeps blinking and he's watching it, and like he can see what his dad's saying to him in Morse code, I just wouldn't look at it.
Stranger Things, I'd have no chance. Are you kidding me?
No, I'd be screwed.
Well, at least that one they did a trail. Like, if you lead a trail for me, I can figure that out.
Yeah. Oh, and another cool thing we got in this half of the season, just to touch down on, is Trip had the first interspecies in this realm, because you never know with the original First Contact, but that we know of, especially on this ship. Mm-hmm. He was the first interspecies because he slept with the princess.
That's right. Yep.
So that's a big deal. He did.
Come on.
He did.
Are you sure?
100%.
Are you sure?
Yes.
She didn't seem like the type who was sleeping around.
She woke up with him. Yeah, they did.
All right.
Oh, they did.
All right. Maybe some heavy cuddling.
Because she was like, if I ever see you again, like,
we're gonna totally do it. We're gonna
bang
it out again.
The only other one before we move on from me,
Padma Lakshmi was 100% like, you are my top chef.
Yeah, it's true. So the only one I would really touch down on is the catwalk. I thought that was a really good episode that shined, and the fact that the entire crew and these other species, I forget their names that were in there, were just stuck in there, and to see how they had to live so close and annoy each other but had to do it. Yep. It really added a big element of the crew aspect, seeing more outside of just the bridge.
Yep, agreed. So. And it's nice that this show does this a few times, where it gives you the entirety of the crew, because we're only talking 83 people here.
Yeah.
So it really gives you that breadth. In the first season, very well. In this season, it does it. It maintains it. How about that? It maintains.
Oh,
it continues to be. Well, we are a crew. There are other people on this ship, and we get to see them and meet them and interact with them.
And to add to that, real quick, to as we're kind of finishing off the episode, it really kept the Explorer from the first season, but it's so established by these characters because you like them now. They're already introduced. Yep. By this time, all their little things that are popping up were just joys to watch. They're established. I like that.
Yeah, and now that's one of the best parts about this first half of the season, especially, is that we get just the building on everything that we've started with. Yeah. Everything that came before, now it just continues. It's furthering itself, and the story is growing, and these characters are taking on the lives of their own now, and really getting a foothold in who they are, and the way the character that they're selling across the screen, the actors are nailing. At this point, you feel everyone's in their stride, and it's great. because sometimes it can take 2 seasons with some of these, different characters.
Yeah.
We've seen it, man. Voyager, it's going to be a hard one. There's a couple bits that's like, why do you waffle so much on this? Like, how come you're this way and then you're this way? We'll get there. But this one doesn't. This one doubles down. It's like, this is Malcolm Reed. Here he is. This is Trent Tucker. Here he is. This is T'Pol. Here she is. They're growing and changing, but it's not like they're doing something so out of character.
Do you think this one, in doing that and introducing these characters the way they are, and really, do you think it was a benefit that even though it takes place before all the other shows at the time, it came after and was able to fix on the things that maybe other shows?
I think it should have been more than it was. I think that specific part, yes, they grew the characters within the realm of the character that they were going for and wrote that character that way. Very distinctly and only growing, building off of what already existed.
Yeah.
So you as an audience are carrying along and you know where they are. So it's easy to follow, and it's Star Trek. You want to follow them.
Yeah.
That's what Star Trek does, is the characters. For me, it's always about the crew. And this crew is phenomenal at this point in our series. Like, I could not love it more. Season 2, episode 13, Dawn, just really wrapped it up nicely for me. To go, you know what? This is 100% the crew of the NX-01 Enterprise. I believe in them, and this is their story, and I love it.
Yeah, 100%. Now, before we get in, we're going to talk about a few more things before they end the show, but I'm going to roll down real quick in the first 13 episodes. I'm just going to say the title and who I think shined the most in each episode.
Okay.
You tell me what you think at the end, if you agree or not.
Okay, dope.
Shockwave Part 2, I'd say T'Pol.
Okay, 100%. I agree.
Carbon Creek, I'd say T'Pol.
I agree. Yep. For me, it's the triumvirate of T'Pol, Trip, Archer, because they all are more comfortable with each other now.
But it's T'Pol, I think, shines the most.
T'Pol absolutely shines. Yes, I agree.
She's telling the story and on Carbon Creek, and then in the first episode, the fact that she had to rein them all in. But Archer's very close in that in the Shockwave Part.
Just for smiling. Just for being as happy as these stuff is overall, but it's great.
But even to deal with like the stuff you saw in the future, and it's just kind of like, what's this? Like, I kind of dug that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep.
Minefield Reed.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Dead Stop. Honestly, I would say that's an Archer episode.
Oh no, I agree. It is for me. I still think that the Hoshi shine there is fantastic. Mayweather, especially too. But
absolutely.
But I agree.
I mean, the entire
Archer episode. Yes.
Yeah. Because he just always seemed off-put from the beginning, and I like that aspect.
Yeah, he knew something was wrong the whole time, whereas you have, like, Trip, who's just like, I don't know, check this out.
So, all right, A Night in Sick Bay.
Yes.
Can I guess who I think you'll say?
Yeah, please.
Phlox.
Okay.
I say Archer.
See, I'm Phlox 100% on this.
Yeah, okay.
I have to be Phlox on this because we get to see Phlox
be
a
and
doctor.
It's great. Oh, my God.
And I love how cheesy he is with his animals. I just love it. I love the way he loves his creatures. It's a beautiful thing. So, all right, so that's Night in Sick Bay.
But that for me, like the same on the other side, picking Archer as the highlight in that episode is because he's the conflict he's dealing with. And Phlox plays such a good support to that. That's why I went with Archer first. But I see
nice. Yep, absolutely. Marauders, who you got?
Honestly, it'd probably be an Archer.
For me, it's
or
all
Trip.
Archer.
Trip was good with the kid.
Trip was good, but Archer really. See, that was my problem. I thought the kid was really weak in that episode. Yeah. There was so when you have the weak kid, not the actor himself, though, it just wasn't written well. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha.
He was just kind of very bland, and I was like, okay, I've seen this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I know who this is, so I'm never impressed by it when I've seen that vehicle a million times.
All right, I guess you.
So that's all that is.
All right, the seventh to Paul.
Oh, it's Paul, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Communicator. It was a good Reed episode, but Mayweather was also pretty good in this one.
Mayweather's really good, but it's a Reed episode for me all the way because we get to see him basically mad at himself the whole time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's so annoyed at himself the way he would be annoyed at anyone else if they'd done it.
Yeah.
So that's great because he stays consistent and true to his character the entirety. So I love that. That's
a good point. Of course, Singularity. I would say Archer was really good in this one, but to Paul is probably the shine because Phlox was fun too.
Yes, Singularity is absolutely. It's a Paul episode. Everyone who had their struggle was fun.
Yeah.
Every single Trip was the highlight for me and made me laugh the most.
I can't help you, Reed. I have to fix the captain's chair.
He's so anal about it, and please watch this episode because the way that story wraps up.
Oh my god,
so good! I don't want to ruin it.
That's in the beginning, when it's like Reed, like you think anything Reed's asking is not a big deal, like security checks. Absolutely, sure. I understand that.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Why is it? And then as he starts getting more and more and like drastic about it, it's so good. It's Vanishing Point.
Hoshi.
100% Hoshi.
Yeah, she crushed.
Precious Cargo, I'd say Trip.
Yeah. Nope, that's Trip one for me. Yep. But I mean, you get a Spaceballs style adventure. I mean, come on, it was too good. It was too good.
Catwalk.
Mayweather.
Really?
I love Travis Mayweather in this one.
Okay.
I love him because he's just a good old fashioned supporting ensign. Okay. And my God, if you don't need that every time, the ensign you can always go to.
And he was always a good one.
And he was there. I think it was 5 times he came on and was given a direct order and just went and did it. Like, he just nailed it.
He got the whole pilot system together.
Exactly. Yeah. So he crushed it. I like him a lot in Catwalk. I think he did great. I think this also is notable for Trip. Trip deserves a note in this one.
Okay, cool.
So but as a chief engineer.
You know I got you.
Did really well.
And Dawn, of course, is Trip.
Trip.
Yeah. So, all right. So, with that being said, let's talk about who is your highlight character for the first half of the season.
Oh man, so this was really hard because I love every character. As I've said, I think everyone, if you can be the best version of yourself in the role, and that's the character I see, then I'm part of your crew because you've made me part of your crew. I believe your crew, so I'm there. Let's do this.
Yep.
Trip and Archer are honestly probably have 2 of the largest leaps. No, sorry, geez, I totally misspoke. Archer and T'Pol have 2 of the largest leaps as characters in this. T'Pol is absolutely hands down.
I agree. My highlight character is
highlight. She can't not be. You get the Carbon Creek episode, the Shockwave speech. Those 2 episodes back to back.
Singularity.
Minefield. She's out. She's the captain of the ship while Archer's out there with Reed. I mean, she is doing it the whole time.
She takes over. Yeah, I would definitely say in first half she's the highlight.
I'm going to say, though, I was a little upset with her sexualization in A Night in Sickbay. Call me old.
Yeah, no, there's a few.
I was a little bit. It was fine if you're going to do it once to give us the understanding of what they're doing or see like.
Listen, if we're talking about the sexualization,
oh my God,
here's the problem. There's so many times oh my God, not even now. Wait till you get to season 4.
Oh God,
people. Oh my God, like it's ridiculous. But the whole season 3. We'll get to the sexualization of it.
There becomes a whole lot of sex, and
it's uncomfortable because it's like you have this strong character, who we're not putting down like she has a loving relationship. That's why season 3 doesn't bother me as much. But the problem with it is. It's clear like this is like we have to sell like teenagers on this.
We need the TNA,
and it's like
it's unfortunate they have to push that because I felt like although yes sometimes it fits like I will always use this example of Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers has the shower scene that is not sexual at all.
No,
it's just people taking a shower, shooting the shit, messing with each other.
Yeah, literally.
Getting ready to go do work. No one's horned up during it. And I think there was that. A couple episodes of Enterprise start to horn it up a little bit, and you can feel it being more horned up than just factual. Like, of course, we know you all go to the sonic showers together and just shower together. It's okay. It's fine. Lower Decks touched on it. They're like, of course this happens. Nobody cares. You're naked. It's fine.
Yeah, because I like and I like where that's at, and that's why I think it makes it so uncomfortable. Because for me in Star Trek. Yeah, there's a sexual component to it. There always is. Like Riker is always off humping or something like that.
Maybe you're like, oh, hey, I'd sure like to, play some tonsil hockey or something.
Yeah, like and it's complete sense. But the fact that they treat it like it's another fact of life.
Yeah,
it's something that there's no shame in. So do what you do, and go about it. So when they over sexualize, that's where I think it's like. If you're over-sexualizing a show that has completely normalized sex, you're making it too much.
You make it weird because then it becomes, like you said, too much. And I that's one of the things about A Night in Sickbay did. Because we're so used to seeing these people just rub stuff on themselves when they're in decon, some sort of special gel that, Phlox has to shoot to them in their little pressure tube. Like, okay, cool.
How about I over-sexualize it now? What's that special gel?
Yeah. Now, how weird is it? Like, how uncomfortable is that? Well, I mean, he's a Denobulan, so he might have just whacked off a lot.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
Who knows? It could be some sort of space slug jizz that's supposed to, like,
oh my god,
heal whatever burn you have or some weird thing.
Jesus Christ. I will tell you, when it gets down to that, though, and like with the over-sexualization and stuff like that, and it's just those moments, because when we talk about, and I know people who are going to listen are going to be like, what about the green,
the Orion chicks?
The Orion chicks from TOS
right.
and stuff like that.
And I
it's
get
like,
that. Look.
It's like, but their species is built on over-sexualization.
Right, exactly. We go to Ryza.
Yeah.
We know what's going on at Ryza.
We're
Everyone's
cool.
trying to throw down. We understand, but everyone in Ryza is cool too.
We're not saying that characters can't be oversexed.
Oh, look, and I'm not saying that your captain can't look at the first officer and go, she's smoking hot, because she is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's understandable. It's how he handles it immediately was great. And I love that they showed that. There was something about the scene itself that went too long. You know what I'm saying? The scene itself just held on for a minute too long. Yeah. With the whole, like, they're getting closer to kissing and everything, and it was like, this is awkward. Like, I don't want to see that.
You know what I'd love to see is, as a show, either whether it's on a starship or it's like Starfleet Academy or something, where one of the Orion women is a part of it. So the sexualization's in it, because we know set up in the JJ movies that there was an Orion female who was in Starfleet.
Absolutely. There's been a couple.
Yeah. So
I mean, Tendi now.
But play up that aspect, so that way it's like a normalization of sex even more, even through LGBTQ, which has always been okay.
In absolutely.
Nemesis, they talk about transgender.
I mean, in the original series, they had transgender people.
Yeah.
They had the androgynous ones who were able to change what they were.
And there you get your but I'd be more okay with it, because now you introduce this character, maybe she sleeps around, whatever. It's over-sexualization. Yep. It's fine. Then, because that species is an oversex type of drive.
Right.
When you take T'Pol or you take Archer, somebody who we have not looked at this, I've never seen Archer as the Kirk kind.
Never. He's not.
You know,
he's always the guy who's done it more by the book.
Like whatever, he wants to meet a woman, that's fine. We see it, but
yeah.
I mean, he's not oversexed.
Wants to hump, he'll hump. He doesn't need to.
Yeah.
That's not his thing.
Is it weird that Kirk would be fine? Like, if Kirk was dreaming about her, I'd be like, yeah, I get it.
Honestly,
Kirk.
I think that's part of it, too. Yeah. If Kirk did it, I wouldn't care. If Picard did it, it'd be like, that's weird. You're like 45 years older than her.
If they did that on
younger
TNG,
than you, it'd be weird.
If they did that on TNG, he would be having those dreams and then wake up distraught like, oh, my God. And it's like, you can't have a dream.
Fair.
Dude. Calm down.
It would be more melodramatic.
It would be so melodramatic.
A little bit. If Cisco did it, we'd be like, yeah, boy. That's what's up. Because remember, he gets married 100%. For crying out loud.
Yeah.
And also, Cisco I'd be cheering on because he needs to get over his wife. That was one of the best parts, is him dealing with that loss.
But Archer was so weird.
Archer can't do it. Like, in my mind, Archer's more like Pike from Strange New Worlds. You've got those two that they're the Boy Scouts. They're legitimate freaking Boy Scouts.
Well, no, actually, I like the fact that Archer was sexually pent up intense.
Yeah,
I like that because it shows you that even the most stoic of our heroes can be, and it's okay to be.
And we see Pike.
The problem was,
so it's
yeah. So my problem is, it's how they over sexualize T'Pol.
Exactly.
And it's like, and you did that for ratings.
Yep.
What you're showing.
Exactly. Yep.
So that's where it comes in. It's just to kind of explain like. My way of thinking on that, but
no, because I'm with you on that, and I think it was kind of BS. That it's like that was my frustration with it.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, man, you've got Jolene Blaylock is a phenomenal actress. You don't just need to show off her assets.
I know.
That was rude.
You're even tights. Like,
you have her in the freaking skin suit all the time. She has,
and somehow you made it more colorful than the next season.
Oh,
so like, I'm not even getting this.
The maroon one.
There were so many colors that popped up, and I'm like, what is this? But we'll get there. And that's this whole show is like a we'll get there sort of scenario.
It's on the way.
We have to touch on things. So okay. Let's talk about we talked about the highlight of each episode, highlight character of each episode.
Yep.
Did we talk about
of the season?
Did we do our highlight of the season? We said T'Pol, right?
T'Pol, just T'Pol. Yep.
Let's talk about what's your what do you think is the best episode this half of the season?
Oh, okay. Well, that's
and then
easy.
What's the worst?
Oh, well, 100%. I'm going to start with A Night in Sick Bay is my favorite.
It's a great one.
I really realized that I screwed up and should have been a doctor my whole life. I really screwed the pooch. They're my favorite way to go. And actually, with this one, Precious Cargo.
Precious Cargo was the worst.
Was one of the least worst ones, and it was because the writing was bad and the chemistry between the two of them sucked.
Well, she's not an actor.
I know.
And she was her from Top Chef.
She's a model and a Top Chef. You know,
it was her just kind of overplaying being whiny.
Yeah, she was very much so. She was a Daphne Zuniga from Spaceballs. She was 100%. It was almost. It felt more like she was making fun of it than owning it sometimes. And I feel like there was a thing there. And
you need to own it,
right?
Even when you're making fun of it.
But the episode itself was good and fun. It was a fun jaunt.
But
I have to say,
it was a good trip episode.
Yeah, great trip episode, but the weakest really of all. Because there's better trip episodes. There's, everyone had a better episode.
And the only one I would disagree on, Night of Sick Bay is great, but I would say Carbon Creek for me. It was my highlight.
Like, it's amazing. I mean, look, it's one of my top episodes of this entire series. So I always say that. Carbon Creek is one of the top of the series. Night in Sick Bay, though, now that something about this rewatch, something about rewatching this and seeing the characters differently now. From a different perspective, because now I'm seeing it from the captain's perspective as opposed to, let's say, a lieutenant working in, tactical. I've got a different mindset now. I'm older. I see things differently. So it's really great to see that episode, because I like when you see Phlox be awesome.
Yeah.
Because he deserves that, because he's awesome. He's one of the best doctors in Starfleet in all of the episodes, in my opinion, all the series. So,
I agree.
And we'll get to that at the end.
Yeah.
During our wrap-up show of the end of every series.
That's true. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take off. We're going to come back next week for next episode dressed in the exact same clothes.
Boom.
Looking like it's just was filmed on the same day, but don't worry, it's filmed on another time.
It's different.
So, guys, if you are part of our Patreon, we appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for that and supporting us. This is why we do this, and we hope you guys are enjoying it. But go check out Quarter Impulse on our YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed there, please go subscribe and like there. You can check us out on all social media everywhere. But until next time, I am Mick Manhattan.
And I am Casey the Madman Plot. Remember, be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other, and live long and prosper.